But we're not here to talk about like what we're wearing. We're here to talk about what books or what things got us into reading when we were younger. Which I think we touched on a little bit before, but this is more in
But
depth.
we're going to talk more about it today. Okay, what are you drinking? Before we get started, what are you sipping on today? I've
The
got a
same thing I
raspberry.
sip on every single time.
Pinky, we're going to rule the world.
A chai latte because I haven't had my caffeine yet.
That's so appropriate. So I'm drinking a raspberry tea. This is the literal last packet of my raspberry tea. So I'll be peach next week, or in 2 weeks when we come back. So
I'm not gonna
I'm
lie, I did already have another cup of tea this morning too because I've got like I don't know if it's allergies like and I just need the tea to like help flush the system. So I did have some sunny C tea this morning already too.
that sounds fun. All right. So while we're pulling up our other stuff, I just want to tell everybody I still read all the time. So the last update we did. So I'm in this book here, almost done with that. I'm going to finish that probably today. I should have finished it like 4 days ago, but I haven't been reading, like at all. Um, and then this is my next book that I'm going to be reading. I took them out of the library because who can afford to own all these books? Despite the fact that every book I'm going to show you today is a book in the over 1,000 that I own, I really only have a library
Oh, so
card.
you're considered a library.
Yes, I am considered a library. My house is considered a library. I don't know where to register or anything. I'm only a library trustee, but I'm only that for a few more days, and then we're
Only a
done.
few
And
more days.
I'm a little bit sad, but it's a lot of work sometimes, and
Yeah.
like I'm a little bit glad to have that back. Okay, so those are.
Last week was my spring break, as you know,
Mhm.
because we met up in person and we had lunch and everything. So last week my reading included rereading 1 through 6 of the manga Windbreaker and then buying because I'm like you, I'm obsessed. And things like manga I tend to want to own. Then purchasing 7 through 10 and reading all of it. Just read all of it. Just all of it.
All of it.
Oh no. Oh there you
Okay, so all right, so what books? So my kids are a little bit older than your kids, so I've got a
go.
couple books here.
I should have
From
grabbed some of the kids books. Because I did this based off of me, not you. Or
Well,
not
no, no, no.
kids.
Like these are books that I encouraged my kids to read. And then I brought a couple that my kids that are now adults did enjoy while they were growing up. So that's what I brought with me today.
I thought we were doing what got us into
I
reading
do.
because like
I do.
I
I do. I do.
grabbed when we first talked about this, I grabbed
Okay,
Where the
so this
Sidewalk
is a
Ends.
book that I owned as a child. And that one has the poem "Stick" in it, right? I can't
Yes.
go to school today, but said little Peggy Ann McKay. I have the measles and the mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps.
Oh my god, you have them memorized like I do. When I was in grade school, I had to memorize a Shel Silverstein poem, and I memorized Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceiling, coffee grounds, potato peelings, blah blah
Yes, yes, yes. What? Okay, sick.
blah. And this was literally mine. You can see it is falling apart. Wait, wait, you've got to see.
Mine fell
It
apart.
even has my old signature, my room number because this was from second grade 201,
That's about the
and
same time
even
I
my
got the game.
my old address. I'm not gonna put that there, but yeah, like this was
So
literally like my second grade book.
okay,
Just
so
falling
I had
apart.
one and I read it until it fell apart. And then when I had kids, I told my parents, I was like, I do not understand how anybody in this world expects me to raise children without Shel Silverstein poems. So they bought me like his entire collection. And Sick and Attic, both read those with my kids, and I'm not Sick, A Light in the Attic and Where the Sidewalk Ends. We both read them until literally those books fell apart. And Sick is very special because my oldest child, when we lived in Charlotte, my oldest two went to the one of the visual and performing arts magnet schools, and you had to audition to get into the school musical. And so I made
Ooh.
my kid memorize Sick, and that was their audition piece. So it has like it's not only a poem that I memorized, it is a poem I made my children memorize.
So you're
So
gonna find this really funny. So I do you know I have 2 bachelor's degrees.
yes.
Okay, so for the audience that may not know, I have 2 bachelor's degrees. My first bachelor's degree is in music business. I went to Elmhurst College, which is actually very well known for music in the area, particularly music education and music business. But while I was there, like I did theater in high school, and I didn't do it so much in college, but I did do one play because what they did is they took poems from Where the Sidewalk Ends and they made a play. And
Nah.
so it was so cute. And so like they had a lot of the actors were like kids on a playground doing like the poems, and then I ended up auditioning and I got the part of like essentially like a babysitter, like at the park, like watching the kids and whatever. Anyways, it was like super cute, and it was very reminiscent of uh um the Charlie Brown musical. It is You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. That's it.
Oh
You're a Good
yeah.
Man, Charlie Brown. It was so cute, and it was so creative that they took poems and then they made a play out of it. But yes, this was. I think you and I like this is
This felt like
this
part.
this one in particular. I never really got into the others. Like I have A Light in the Attic, but I felt
No, but
like the
when
poems were
Sidewalk
not as good as
Dancing,
these.
all the classic ones. I mean, because the Sarah Sylvia or whatever,
Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout,
Sarah Cynthia
Sister
Sylvia
for
Stout.
Sale,
Yes.
One Sister for Sale.
It's got sick. Does it have the hats, or is
I
it
think
Light in the
so.
Attic?
Wait, hold on. I'm like
Mr.
flipping through it as we are talking. I'm looking.
Uh,
I don't think it has a. It doesn't have a table of contents. I was looking for a table of contents. Oh, okay. In the back, it has an index. Hat. Yes, page 74. Page 74. I'm almost
I
there.
just
There it is.
he just
Teddy said it
embodies
was a
stuff.
hat, so I put it on. Now Dad is saying, "Where the heck's the toilet plunger gone?"
Yeah. I mean, like he just embodies like that precocious child experience so well, and like as adults you're like, ew, gross, but like kids are just like that. Yeah.
I think that like Where the Sidewalk Ends. Yeah, you're right. Like it was childhood, but like it was also there was something I think I felt more whimsical maybe about this than like A Light in the Attic, because I never clicked with any of the poems in A Light in the Attic like I did with Where the Sidewalk Ends. Does that make sense?
Yeah, although I think yeah, and the Giving Tree, which is his other really famous piece of work,
Which I hate. I hate so much.
I understand that, and like it's so literary, like, but it is kind of a gateway into like literary thinking. Um,
Yeah.
and so I get hating it. I get hating it. I don't
I
particularly love.
hate the message. I hate the message. Let's put it that way. I don't like the message. I think
I
that
I totally think the message is about enmeshment. So yeah, I think that's bad.
I don't like the idea that at the end of it, like the tree has literally given everything away, which is very interesting because actually a very similar story comes up in Fruits Basket, which I also rewatched the whole first season of that. And there was a very similar story that's I think like a Japanese myth that is about a traveler who is traveling like around the country or whatever and like keeps giving things away. People are tricking that person and keeps giving things away, and until like they give away all their clothes, they're walking naked in a forest, and then demons come up and they start giving away like their arm and their leg, and they're at one point just a head, and like the last demon is like, "Can I have your eyes?" And they're like, "Yes." And so he's like, "I'll give you a gift," and he gives them a gift, but it just says like "ha ha" or something, and then like the person dies. And it's just like I don't see the moral message, but I do know, like, I think it's very popular, and I remember it being a big thing in grade school because I went to Catholic grade school.
So when I covered the Giving Tree with my children, I was like, so what the boy is doing is abuse.
Mhm.
Like you're asking for literally everything this other person has, and at the end of the day, that it's not even alive anymore. So you took
Yeah.
this beautiful living thing and you literally killed it for your own selfish needs. And that can be a metaphor for the way some people are in relationships. That's not really love. If the boy had loved the tree, then there would have been a way to do most of what the boy wanted to do without killing the tree. And
Yeah.
so that was the moral that I took away with it. So I do get disliking the poem. Okay. So The other thing that I made my kids read, this is one of the hardcovers, and like you can tell my kids loved it, right? It's burned.
Oh, Little
Um,
House.
yes. And this was to Alexandria. And I picked this up. So we went to Mount Rushmore as a family, and on the way back, we went by De Smet, South Dakota, to to where the Laura Ingalls Wilder house is there. And I bought 2 copies of the very first book, which this is Little House in the Big Woods. But I have the whole collection sitting on my. But I think I didn't want to bring like a whole
Yeah.
collection of them here. So my kids have been able to go through these. And this is what I wrote to my daughter Alexandria. Mommy was given these books when she was a little girl and loved them. I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. Love, Mommy. And Lexi at the bottom here signs it with her, highlights her name and puts a little heart.
Aw.
So Lexi is was not was my child that was the oldest to learn how to read. So she just had this idea inside her head when she was in 2nd grade that reading was not something she needed to do. What she was going to do is she was going to be a carpenter, and she was going to just pound, nails into wood, and this was on the job thing, and she didn't need to read it off of that. And fortunately for me, my grandfather had been a builder, and so my dad had built his own home. He was the general contractor of his own home, and I dragged her into my dad's then almost newly built house, and he still had all of his stuff. And I said, Dad, can you please show Alexandria everything you had to read in order to build this house? And he took out all of his binders, and we have a 7-year-old kid, and he stacks the binders up until they're taller than the kid. And I was like, yeah, and now you're going to you want to learn to read now when it's fun stories and stuff instead of there when it's, how to put things together. It's real. I mean, like this stuff is not nearly as riveting as you think it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder. Some of this is a real slog because they're technical manuals, and you need to have that skill set, and it'll be easier to read later on. You don't want to learn how to read on those. So that convinced her to read, and now she's reading the Rebecca Yarros series.
Mhm.
So, you know,
The Fourth Wing
it's
series.
the fourth wing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, we've been lucky with our kids, like they have been very into reading since a young age. Even my middle who has dyslexia, he enjoys reading, and it's funny because it's like he had a tough time learning how to read. Um and we always have books around the house, and like he enjoyed, like, if he was sitting by himself, he would enjoy, like, like the picture books or whatever, like his dinosaur books and stuff. um but it's so funny because, like, I know, like, the struggles that it took him to learn to read, and he took the longest to learn how to read as well, for obvious reasons, with dyslexia. But it's so funny because at school, his teacher's like, he's like always like reading. I'm like, what? Like, I mean, like, I know he likes to read, like, not as much as his brothers or whatever and his sister. Um, but like, he still does. Like, and he's more likely to pick out and actually read, like the longer form books. So like he's really been into like they did have like a short period of like the I Survived books, which are, historical. Lately, actually, it's been into like cryptids and stuff. So like he got like a series of books that was like, about a kraken and about like the chupacabra and stuff like that. And it was hilarious hearing him try to pronounce chupacabra because he could not do it and still can't. Um,
It is
but
a
my
funkily spelled word.
what?
It is a funkily spelled word.
It is, and it's long, and it has a lot of letters, and that can be confusing when you have dyslexia. But it was
Yeah.
I think, and I didn't grab one, and I should have because I didn't think about it. When my oldest started reading, though, like the first thing, like it happened in like first grade. Um, Ursula Vernon, who is known under that pen name, well, that's her name, I think. Um, for the Dragon Breath series, which is a fantastic mix and mash of like chapter book and comic, right? Kind of similar to like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but like with
Right.
dragons.
Yeah.
Those books are hilarious. They are absolutely hilarious. And it stunned me when like my son in first grade, like over winter break, started reading it aloud to us and read an entire book aloud to us. Like,
Nice.
blown
Nice.
away. Didn't realize he could read that well. Like, I mean, obviously it's first grade, he's learning how to read. I was like, where did this come from? Um, and since then, I mean, like, obviously, like, they're into reading and stuff. But uh when book fair comes around, it's so interesting to see like what they gravitate towards. And I hope like that they continue to enjoy it, because now my oldest, particularly going into middle school, right, is getting to the point where I was, which is when you have to read stuff, you're told to read stuff, and this could be the ADHD. I hate to read it. Like, you tell me to read something, like, that's why I can't join book clubs. I'm like, you tell me to read something, I am not going to do it. Not. Um but I see a book and I think it's interesting. Yeah, I'll pick it up and try to read it, you know?
Well, but I mean, how much? Yeah, but so here's the thing. I think the thing that's intimidating about book clubs, which I don't go to either, right? Is like you have to have something. It's not just that you read the book; you have to have something to say about it,
Oh, I
And it's
have
like,
plenty of opinions. I'm
oh,
not
I'm sure
lacking
you
in
do.
opinions.
I'm sure you do, but it's a book. But book club is like not always books that you're going to choose,
Mhm.
right? Like the group makes a decision, so it's not
Yeah.
always what you would naturally gravitate towards. So sometimes it's a little bit being outside of your comfort zone, and
Mhm.
then sometimes you have to have an opinion on it. And if there are people in the book club that you disagree with, and it's not always a constructive conversation back and forth, that can be really hard. And then for me, the more that I got to be an author, the harder it got to be to go to book club
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, like I'm spelling behind the scenes things like I can see what the author did there. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting twist on blah 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 trope, and they're like, shut up, and because they don't
Yeah.
want to talk about those things, which authors find endlessly fascinating, and we think about all the time because we're trying to think of new and original ways to present it to the reader. And the readers are like, we don't want to see how the sausage is made. Fair.
Well, I mean, some people do, but yeah, like,
Some people,
I do think it's hard. I think it's, you're right. Like, and that's part of the reason. Like, again, but that goes back to like the school thing too. Like, I hated in school being told what to read. Right? Again, it's a book I don't want to read. I was more likely to read, in high school we had to do summer reading too, and it was usually 3 novels. There were 2 that were required, and then the 3rd book, there was a list and you could pick from the list. And those were most likely the books that I would finish. Like, I remember my freshman year I read The Martian Chronicles, and I don't remember sophomore or junior year I read Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. And I remember that being the first time I was so engrossed in a book, the
Agatha
phone
Christie.
rang and I jumped.
Okay, so we'll do an Agatha Christie sometime this summer.
No,
Just on
because like that's literally the only Agatha Christie book I've ever read.
no, we can talk about. Well, it's also her most famous
And,
book.
well,
Um,
yeah, and that was
so
also like 30 years ago. Almost 33. I don't remember anything from it other than it making me jump. I do remember
um,
though in college also The Book Thief. That was the second time I was so engrossed in a book I got on the wrong L line.
oh,
So
yeah,
engrossed
that's
in it.
that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you bring any other books that you read? Because like I brought tons of
I
them.
did. I mean, so obviously this one's controversial for the author now, but of course, Harry Potter. Because by this point, so like when these were coming out, I was in college the first time for my music business degree. And at that point, I wasn't reading. I hated reading. Reading was like the bane of my existence. And then I
I
got into
have
a
these
car
books in my
accident.
house too, and I knew you were bringing them for this,
Yeah.
so because we talked about this a few weeks ago. So
I will
Harry
say
Potter.
this is a pride and joy for me, because when I went to London, I have a full set of the British editions.
Oh, that's so amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is but so that segued us into the conversation of like the ones my kids read. So we'll just say, I'm a traditional girl. I have all of the Anne of Avonlea's. These are the one Anne of Green Gables. These are all the ones that are falling apart. I have an entire set my sister bought for me that are here, but I have tried to pass these on. My kids don't understand them. I'm like deeply sad. Anne is she's one of the best literary characters out there. She's an amazing character. So I thought that was really great. Okay. So you said Harry Potter. This is what my kids read instead. the Percy
I
Jackson
know,
series.
and like that's like the divide, right? Because like Gwen and I are far enough away in age, right? Because like my Harry Potter was really, or her Harry Potter was really Percy Jackson, right? Because she was like way into Percy Jackson. Um, Whereas when Harry Potter came out, this really got a generation of older millennials, especially into reading. Obviously for now times it's not cool, but
Well, but what it did was it changed the YA landscape, right?
yes,
It was this
it
imagine
did change bookstore landscape too.
yeah, it well, and I mean, like, when I was growing up, this was YA, right? Like, when I was growing up, so, like, I'm a little bit older than you. When I was growing up, like, I'm an Xer. This was YA. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this was the stuff. It was this, and I have some in here, but I didn't pull them. Adventures in Babysitting. What is it? Sweet Valley High.
Although
Like,
those are coming back because of the things like the graphic novels.
that's true too. But that's what it was when we were growing up, and like, I don't know. And like, listen, it's not that I didn't like, Jessica and Elizabeth Wakefield or whatever, but how many books can you read about how, Jessica's the popular girl with snotty opinions and Elizabeth is the bookish one? I mean, like, a couple of books, sure, but like I wasn't gonna read 100 of them.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
fair.
I don't have so we were flooded out, so I don't have any more of my Nancy Drews, but I read tons and tons of Nancy Drew when I was growing up because
That does not surprise me in the least.
in the least. I read tons of Nancy Drew, and I also lost all my Sherlock Holmes collection. But that one I went and I put on my Kindle, so it's like on my phone now. So like I own it. Um, I own the Kindle editions of it, so like I just read them on my phone or on my tablet.
Yeah.
Um, I
But
just don't
like
have to.
I will say like this in particular changed the landscape because also like who heard of going to a midnight release for a book
Before, and
before
I
this?
So you went to several of them. I went
I
to
did.
only the last one. I went to only the last one, and I took my oldest two. And then I was pregnant with my youngest at the time of the midnight release of the very last Harry Potter book. And so so we got a photo of me, and I don't know where it's at. My husband has it somewhere, but there's a photo of me with holding the book like in front, and like me and the other two, and they knew I was pregnant, and they have their little tiny little paws on my pregnant belly. But like I'm not really showing yet,
Yeah.
so but yeah.
I remember I have because I went to 5, 6, and 7 because when I had the car accident and I broke my wrist and the reason I got into reading was sitting at a doctor's office all the time, and not having
It
phones because
is
they weren't
something
like
you
they
need
are
to
now.
do. You have to do something when you're sitting in a doctor's office because those waits are forever.
They were well, and back then, we didn't have smartphones, like whatever, so like
Yeah.
I started reading and I blitzed 1 through 4, like no one's business being at all those doctor's appointments. So yeah, I went to the 5 midnight premiere, but then the 6 midnight premiere, I remember I have the ticket still because they were handing out numbered tickets and like me and this other person got there at like almost the same time, but they got there like a couple minutes before me, like 2 minutes, like not even like um, and I was so excited. They were like, "Do you want ticket number 1?" And I was like, "Yes." And I have it framed and it's still in my back closet.
We
But
did not get tickets. I was like, "Hey, there's the midnight release. What do I need to do?" And they're like, "You need to pre-order the book." And I was like, "Done." And so then I had to take my receipt and I showed my receipt. But yeah. But it doesn't surprise me, right? Because there's a huge difference between blitzing
yeah.
through something that is this thick, right? This is a normal sized book. This is
I mean, the
probably 70.
original was thin, but like they got thicker as they went.
They did, but, like, remember, she's a first-time novelist, Rick Riordan is, like, a first-time novelist,
Yeah.
and so they're probably, like, right at 75,000 words, both of those books, which is, like, the maximum a publisher is gonna take a chance on, and then once you get and then people really have and Mark Vithina, which is, like, this thick, which is why hers get thicker and thicker and thicker, and I think this is about the thickest they ever got, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, these go back to my child, though, who, like, does these, and these books were gateway drugs into the Witcher series. And my kid owns multiple copies of all of the Witcher. Oh, I
See,
did bring it.
whereas like Harry Potter for me was like a gateway into, and I didn't grab it, but was a gateway into the Ian Colfer Artemis Fowl series, which is also a 7-book series. and people at the time likened him to like the Irish Harry Potter, or the Irish J.K.
Kids
Rowling.
read those as well.
What?
My kids read the Artemis Fowl series as well.
Yes, they are fantastic. I think Ian Colfer is like an amazing author. I have almost all of his other books too. Um, but yeah, I think like those were big. But then also just for your edification, because you know that I am a massive manga reader.
Oh, nice.
And it's even in this was like one of the first ones I bought. Like I don't remember. This was back when they didn't do the flipping. Like it's the correct way, because even my daughter looks at me funny. Not the correct way. It's the American way. Um, May 2000. That's when this was released.
Nice.
So this was what got me into manga, because again, this and this were about the same time, because May 2000 I was entering college that fall. So
We
yeah.
won't talk about how many years I'd already been married at that point.
Yeah. I'm younger than you, remember? Younger than you.
And in all fairness, I got married really young too. So
But I think it's like manga has come such a long way from these days, back when you could, barely find these in bookstores. Price wise, they haven't gone up terribly. But like the quality of the books have, and the size, and
so that is something that I started doing. So on my side blog, I talk about how much did this book cost me, and this one isn't listed. A lot of times they're listed on there. So these were part of a series, so I'm sure there's nothing on there. And that one is, don't know. Let's see. But I have kept a track of them, so I try to
what
keep track.
costs going up over the years.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the way my library, so it's a segment that's called "How Much Did My Library Card Save Me?" So this book, Mark of Athena. So this is, I don't think this is the first edition. Take a look and see. It is not, but my kid is probably reading these like a couple of years later. So definitely it was still in the store in the hardcover, because this is 2012, right? And this is 19. So this book with this art and this in $2012 was $19.99.
Hmm.
Listed on that.
Although you may have
Um,
gotten it on sale, that's not marked.
it's not. I mean, I don't know, but like
Yeah.
I just used the wholesale price. And so the thing that's interesting, and then this one, and I don't know what edition this one is. I'm sure it's not a first edition. Um, so one of the cool things about reading library books is like they get a lot of first editions. Libraries buy a
Mhm.
lot of first editions. Oh, this is a first edition. Okay, so this is a first edition, 2005. So the price on this one in 2005 was $17.99. Which, and like these days,
I mean, that's about, well, but like then I went and I recently bought. So I was telling you, after we had lunch, actually, I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought my husband the new John Scalzi book,
which you said you're going
when,
to do,
when the
because
moon
he's like,
hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
yeah,
And I got one, not manga. Yeah, no, manga. I got one manga and one hardcover. That's it. Before I took the $5 off that I had, it was $46 after tax.
nice,
Not
nice.
nice. No, not nice.
For $3, yeah,
Two
sarcastic.
bucks. Two.
$2,
Two.
not not nice. No, I know, but I mean, but that's one of the things that I'm talking. That's one of the things. And one of the things that I've been doing is, I've been so every once in a while, like I'll get something that's out there, and then I'll run it through the inflation calculator. And I
Mhm.
know, like we went through like this recent period of inflation, but you can see the consolidation of presses, in the release, right? And so, like
Yeah.
when I was growing up, a book this size, like I bought so many of them. Most of them were my romances.
And they were
And it's
like
been like,
$7.
well, okay, so, like, I'm older than you, so it was, like, $5, so, like, I got
Okay.
$20. I got
A, tra- a, tra-
$20.
a trade paperback though was, yeah, pretty cheap.
Yeah,
Cheap. Cheap. Yeah.
was, like, $5, right? And I got $20 a month for allowance, and so I would go into my local drugstore, go to the bookshelf in my local drugstore because drugstores had bookshelves back in the day,
Yeah.
and I would pick. So I would go through all of the ones that I'd read. We talked about how I chose whether or not I thought it would be a good book. And I would spend my $5 on it, and I could, and that was basically one. If I wanted to buy only books, one book a week, right? But
Yeah.
I typically bought one book a month. Like, I've always been a library card holder. I just, like, and now that I own so many books, I try to only bring books into my house that I want to read again and again and again and again and again. So I tend to be a little bit more particular about it. But earlier this year, our friend Gwen's local bookstore was going out of business, and I sent her with $20 to buy books for me, and she didn't even spend that whole $20 before she got like overloaded with them to still have all of hers that I still have to read.
Yeah.
And I was like, just random stuff in the mystery category, because sometimes I just need to get outside my comfort zone, and it's better to let somebody else do that for me because like I just you know
Kind of like those mystery date with a book.
yes, I really need to do that because my
Yeah.
local used bookstore has like all these mystery dates to buy, and I was like, oh, no, down. Maybe I'll go find one of those or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And like for me it's like hard for me to like I would do what you did like price wise, but like a lot of books I have been purchasing at like places like half price books for ages. Like I've probably been going to half price books for like 15 or 20 years. So like I will pick up books on clearance for $1, right? Or like I'll pick up like a $5 book or something. So like I have a lot of books that are like not list price.
although
That makes
as
sense.
novelists, we definitely want you to pay the full price for those books so we can get our full commission.
Yes,
Yeah.
obviously. Obviously.
Um,
But I'm almost out of tea, FYI. I'm almost out.
yeah, me too. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I'm like out of tea, so I guess we're done talking. We could talk about these things for days and days and days, but
We could. Um Quick, what's the next thing that you're gonna be blogging about before we go?
no idea. No idea. We'll get to the
Oh,
end of this week and we'll do it. I don't have ideas yet. I might talk about some of this stuff. I do have a release that's coming up, so probably need to talk about that a little bit in my Charlie Snow series. So like I'm really excited. I am overwhelmed. So like my April 1st project is now over with. And I now have
yay!
time again. So that only leaves me a month behind on rewrite. And I'm already late. I had a rewrite that was due yesterday. No, not yesterday, Sunday.
Sunday.
Because today's Tuesday. And I'm pretty close to getting that finished up. I will finish that today or tomorrow. And then, as you know, I have a class that I have to do, and I need to put the finishing touches on my presentation.
I
And then
won't
I
be
need
there
to.
though. I'm sorry.
It's okay. There
I'm
was
going to
something.
C2E2 this weekend. I got to get my nerd on.
Oh, I think that's the one my kid went to. So yeah, but yeah. So no, have fun at the con. I mean, we'll totally
I'm
do.
gonna have
Who's
fun at the con. I'm gonna be releasing so my next thing that I'll be working on to get out this week is actually a video. It's gonna go up on my paid, but I'm thinking because of where we're at economy wise, at least for the first few things that I do paid, I am going to schedule it so that it'll come out on free the following month. So
that
that's
seems
not
fair.
it's not continuously like locked behind a paywall, but I'm doing a behind the scenes how I did my book trailer that I just released. So that's what I'm working on. And I'll probably be doing like at least a review of the Windbreaker series because that was so far. I mean, like obviously it's still ongoing, but like I read the first 10 mangas again, and like that story is just absolutely fantastic. It deals with such tough topics. I think like it handles them beautifully. Man, I was like crying with the Subaki storyline. He went on like this whole journey of he cross dresses and he feels so much more comfortable in women's clothing and his hair long, and he even pole dances and stuff, and like having found like somebody who accepts him for him as opposed to forcing him to be masculine in the traditional sense. And particularly in a culture like Japan, that is like a huge thing, right? Like that is massive. But even here, and it's such a timely story. So I'm just
Jersey.
I actually think it's really funny because as a fighting anime, and then I rewatched Fruits Basket, there was a lot of parallels. I think maybe I'll
Nice.
explore the parallels between those because they're very different genres, but they had huge parallels between them.
Well, I mean, like if I do something that's recent, I binged basically The Residents all weekend. So, on Netflix. So maybe it's a
Wait,
mystery.
is that the Resident or the Residents?
The Residents.
Okay,
It's
not the medical drama.
not the medical drama.
Okay.
It's a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery from Shondaland, about the butler, the head usher at the White House is murdered ish,
Mhm.
or does he commit suicide? That's the whole question of the thing. And so you go through. So like yeah, very satisfying conclusion. 8 episodes. I watched it. So if I do something, I might do something on that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
but
So yeah.
we will see you. We will be together again in 2 weeks.
Um, where we will probably last minute think of something to talk about, but
I hopefully will be less stressed out, and I will have more ideas about what we can talk about. It
um,
was just a
and
really
I
crazy
finally
week.
have, and I'm finally done with my project, so I have brain cells, so maybe I can come up with something too. So
Brain cells.
who knows? You know? We'll see you next time.
We will see you
Bye.
all next time. Bye.